Welcome in here to the Daily Wolves Courtside, man. It's fun to be in with a new episode for you guys. And you see Matt there flexing the old school rookie jersey of the Lamelo Ball. We're going to be going to that and everything and more. We got a special guest on too from the Charlotte Hornets, Will Eudy, who covers him, or he covers Lamelo Ball. He's covered him over his whole career, man. And then on top of that, just the Charlotte Hornets last season and what made him so special and to becoming one of those teams that had one of the best offenses in the NBA, and you're seeing everything now. Will, I'm excited to have you on as a guest, man. We haven't talked in a while, my friend, but bringing you on today, what are your initial thoughts when you see the trade go down? Obviously, last night, Shams comes out and says, hey, the Hornets are having discussions for Lamelo Ball. Last night, when you see that coming out, did you hear anything in the back end, or was it just a shock to you as it was to us? Did you think Lamelo would be moved as soon as today? Or was it more like you saw it last night and you're like, all right, they're fielding offers, but there won't be a trade anytime soon, maybe in a year or two? What's your temperature on it, Will?
Yeah, first of all, man, appreciate you having me. Great to see you
Yeah.
again. Yeah, like I was saying a little bit earlier, I kind of had a little bit of a warning in terms of thinking that something could get done because that notification goes off last night. We all kind of get a sense of, okay, well, there's some kind of broad discussions being had. Who knows when it'll happen? I personally thought, like I think a lot of us thought, if something does happen, maybe it'll happen like a week down the road, more so when free agency starts, that kind of thing. Kind of get the draft stuff out of the way. The dust has settled on all the new rookies being introduced and all that kind of stuff. But man, they had a rookie introduction at the Spectrum Center today. We're welcoming
I saw that.
Steinbach and Anderson. And with that going on, I mean, we still ask those guys those questions and we can't discuss anything about trades that haven't been done. But man, I think everybody in the building was just, their mind was on the elephant in the room, right? I think there was, like I said, there was definitely an inkling of this could happen, but I don't think most people expected it to happen within a day or two. Pretty much a shock, man. I mean, I think a lot of us expected that core to be run back. They were so good, like you said, the second half of the year. It was kind of like, hey, here's our glimmer of hope. Here is our chance to be a top 5 or 6 team in the East next year. So, yeah, it's definitely a big shock to the system. But with that being said, I do think, I tweeted this earlier, I think Jeff Peterson has earned something of the benefit of the doubt because he has had so many forward-thinking moves. He's been smart to acquire all these draft assets. He's made some good margin moves, especially getting Kobe White at the deadline last year. So I'm still trusting Jeff Peterson that he knows what he's doing, that this is going to turn into something good. It is just hard to see what's going to happen right now.
From my point of view as a basketball fan and trying to put bias aside, right? You look at the numbers and kind of like you said, it was almost a shock that the Hornets didn't kind of run it back, you guys were what, 20-2 after January at some point, the team to watch in the entire NBA, the Charlotte Hornets. When was the last time that we were able to say that, not in my lifetime, I can tell you that much. So, but I think the numbers reflect on it. The Hornets were what, a plus 9.9 when LaMelo was on the floor, and they were pretty much a neutral team when he was off the floor. So, there is going to be a lot of questions. Can Kobe White fill the shoes of LaMelo Ball? I think that after emotions have settled for me, and I've actually kind of taken the time to think about this from Charlotte's point of view. I think that, Wendy, he made a great point. I would assume that you guys saw the trade grades from Brian Windhorst, but Kobe White is not a slouch of a player by any means. He's not no LaMelo Ball. You're not going to get the flashy corner to corner passes, one-legged fadeaway threes. But Kobe White is more than a serviceable player. But obviously, the big question for Charlotte fans is, are they going to be able to maintain the core of Brandon Miller, Concanipple, and still be able to win and compete in the East? So, guess we're going to see. It's the beauty of sports. We always get answers.
I think too with this at all too, man. Well, we want this podcast episode to be not just about what we're finding about LaMelo, but what you want to know, maybe what your followers, if you end up reposting this or whatnot, want to know about Naz Reid and what you guys are getting in a player too, because obviously he was involved in the trade. He's beloved in Minnesota, man. But when you see this go down and you're getting Naz Reid in this trade, what's it like from what you heard around today when you're, around the guys, you said, when you were doing those introductory press conferences? What's the temperature of the building getting Naz Reid and the type of player that they think they're getting?
I think it's excitement for sure. I mean, when I
Yeah.
saw the notification buzz across my screen today, right? You're scanning for names that you know in those like milliseconds when it first comes up on the screen. I see Naz Reid, and I definitely had a moment of like, wow, Naz Reid, like that's a great name to get, of course. Like you said, obviously super beloved in Minnesota. I mean, I was talking with somebody earlier today. I remember when I first started covering the Wolves a little bit, like at a deeper level. It was really the summer of 2022. It was right
Yeah.
after the Rudy trade had gone down. And, you know, at that point, Nas was like a little bit more under the radar in terms of how beloved he was. Like, I think people still liked him, but he was still just that like solid role player coming off the bench. It was before the sixth man of the year and all that kind of stuff, before the, you know, the Nas Reid towels and all that kind of stuff. Um, but you saw him grow into this like super impactful player on a team that's going deep in the playoffs every year. And so I think not only are the Hornets getting a guy who's obviously very versatile, can shoot the three ball, can play big down low, but also has that experience under his belt. He's been to 2 Western Conference Finals. He's had several deep playoff runs. I think he brings that to the Hornets locker room. I think that's an underrated part of who he is as a player. He can come in and be like, guys, I've been in these wars in the playoffs. I've been deep into playing ball in April and May. Like, this is what's going to happen when you're in a playoff series of the team that's getting physical and frustrating you or whatever, right? So I love his addition. You know, I was saying also, it's crazy how fast things change in this NBA world, right? It
Yep.
was just a
Yep.
couple days ago, John Krasinski tweets out, he goes, Julius Randle is out the door. It's official. Naz Reid is going to be the starting power forward. And now this happens. So it's just crazy.
That's how it is, man. It is crazy. And like they look at not only that, like our general manager Tim Conley came out and said that they were clamoring for like these young guys were clamoring for their time to shine, like Naz Reid and Jaden McDaniels. We're finally going to give them their time. And Anthony Edwards, it came out when they had discussions of making trades and not to move a so-called person. We don't know who that was. We suspect it was Jaden McDaniels in Minnesota, hence the Giannis rumors that everybody's hearing. And so you're thinking Ant wants his guys, man. Ant wants Naz Reid. Ant wants Jaden McDaniels. He wants to play with him in the starting lineup. And to feel like that was the other day and to switch up to now, like that's just business, man. And maybe that, like, maybe in the background, we don't know how tight Anthony Edwards and like Lamelo Ball truly are. Like, Matt, what'd you think of those comments the other day and then leading into to now?
Well, you know, I think initially, just to kind of like bounce it back to like the tightness or pause, the friendship between Anthony Edwards and LaMelo Ball.
Mhm.
There was the report that came out that said LaMelo Ball was ecstatic. He was excited to come to Minnesota. And I also saw the report from Kyle, I believe it was, that Ant is over the moon, excited to play with LaMelo, you know? And I think that he has very good reason to. You know, like we've obviously never seen Ant with any kind of player with
Yeah.
this caliber that can lead an offense like LaMelo Ball can. I'm gonna go on record here. I'm gonna go out and say this, and maybe this is a little bit of a homer in me, but I think LaMelo Ball is the best passing point guard in the NBA. Right? He is going to fully unlock the off ball for Anthony Edwards that Wolves fans were just raving about all Spurs series. Like we saw it freaking the second he crossed half court, you'd have Dylan Harper and Stephon Castle on him. Like those are two above average defenders. And having LaMelo
Yeah.
Ball is going to almost erase that problem entirely. You know, like with LaMelo's game, he shoots what, 10 threes a game. The dude's also quick. He's got a quick first step. I think he finishes around like 57% from the rim or something like that. So you have to respect him, you know? And then in turn, defenses are going to collapse. You're going to have open shooters. So, I mean, man, like I'm all for this, you know. If as long as our star players on board with it, that's kind of what it is. But like you kind of said, you know, like the NBA, it's a business, you know. Like Wolves fans, and I
Yeah.
know us, all part of the Daily Wolves. We've been ready for the Ant, Nas, Jaden three. Like that was the core that we were ready for, and we were ready to build on. A little part of me will always be sad that we didn't at least give it one shot. We didn't, kind of like similar to the Karl Anthony Towns situation. A little bit of me is always going to be frustrated we didn't run it back. But, you know, business is business. And if Tim Conley felt this was the best move for our team, then I'm all for it.
What do you think? Well, what would you say that you would tell Wolves fans right now who are watching this or listening back after the recording. What are we getting in Lamelo Ball? Maybe something that doesn't even get talked about necessarily, like on the national media aspects. Like what should Timberwolves fans know they're getting in Lamelo Ball?
Man, if you follow the NBA, if you follow basketball, like you know
Yeah.
who LaMelo is. You've seen the highlights, you've seen the man, he looks like he's playing with AirPods in. Like you've seen the crazy step backs, like you've seen the no-look passes, like everybody knows that stuff, right? I think what a lot of people, if you didn't watch the Hornets much uh, over the years and see the progression, like I think there was a decent step up in maturity last season.
Yeah.
When people talk about, man, he takes so many bad shots and all this kind of stuff. Last season, he had such a good team around him, right?
Mhm.
Brandon Miller's healthy for most of the year. Con Knipple's amazing rookie year, of course. You've got Miles Bridges, you've got Musa Diabate. Solid group, great starting five. I think that allowed him to play a little bit more of a tight game. It might even sound counterintuitive, but he was taking smarter shots. He was just playing, obviously, a great style of basketball and offense. And defensively, there's a lot of moments where he tightens up. He's playing a little bit better. Wasn't perfect, but there was a step forward, I would say. And I think it all started really before the season even started at media day in September. I just noticed, like hearing him talk, there was a little bit of a different aura to him in terms of he just sounded a little bit more controlled, a little bit better pace, a little bit more. I don't know how to say it other than just a little bit more free. And he felt like he was taking a little bit of a step forward and maturing. Right when he came in the league 6 years ago, I mean, he was 18 years old, 19 years old at the time, and I think he's done a little bit of growing up, as we all do from those ages, right? So yes, the Timberwolves are getting an all-world offensive player. They're getting a guy who can shoot the ball from all over the court. Obviously, makes defenses pay from 30 plus feet out. One of the best, like you said, I would agree with you in terms of one of the best passing point guards in the league. Con Kniffel said it at one point this past season. He said some version of like, not only does Melo find you when you're open, he finds you exactly where you need the ball. He's impeccable with his timing and his pacing on offense. So I think you're getting, like you said, the perfect guy to complement Anthony Edwards. You said it. He's not going to be double teamed in the playoffs anymore. If Melo's out there, you're not leaving him open. You're not leaving him open, or it's 3 points every time. So yeah, I think this is an amazing play to open up the Wolves' offense, really make them more of a threat to go deep in the playoffs. It's a great swing by Tim Conley. I have to give him all the credit in the world. I love the swings that Tim Conley takes. He is not afraid to do something to improve the team. Even if it looks like maybe a little bit of a short-sighted move at the moment, it usually pays off for him.
For sure. And, I think the one thing that I've been seeing with specifically Wolves fans, like I've seen a lot of stuff that Hornets fans were saying, and there were definitely some choice words, which I understand. I would probably go berserk if we did something with Ant too. Obviously, two different players, they've done two different things in their career, but I understand the frustration from Hornets fans. But if we're looking at this from the Timberwolves perspective, the two gripes that I'm constantly hearing on LaMelo Ball are, one, the injury concerns. He played 105 games through, I think it was 2022 to 2024 or 2023 to 2025, whatever it may be. That's not really that exciting to hear. But on the flip side, I truthfully believe that the Wolves, have some of the best medical staff in the entire NBA with the Mayo Clinic health system. So that is just something to keep in the back of our heads. But the other thing is there is a lot of gripe on LaMelo Ball's play style, and obviously coming with flashy passes and being box office, that's going to come with sloppy, ugly turnovers, right? But Wolves fans, what was your gripe last year? Your gripe was the Julius Randle ugly turnovers. So my question for you is, would you rather have a player that is going to raise the ceiling of this team, like LaMelo Ball, and like you said, Will, that is going to complement Ant's game perfectly come playoff time as long as he is healthy? Or would you rather run it back with Julius Randle again and deal with the ugly turnovers and the ball stopping? So that's just going to be the one thing that I'm encouraging Wolves fans to keep in the back of their head with this move. Obviously, we haven't even really touched on it from the Wolves side. losing Naz Reid sucks. You know, the dude was a culture change. I talked about it all playoffs about how I thought that Naz Reid embodied what Wolves basketball was. He played
Mhm.
the last 3.5 months with a hurt shoulder and just progressively still got better, played through the injury. So it's definitely not fun. It's going to be sad to see Nas not in a Timberwolves uniform, but again, it's a business, like I've said a million times already this episode, and it's just one of those things. Tim Conley, like you said, he loves to take swings. He's one of the most fun GMs in the entire NBA. This is the third year in a row we've seen a quote unquote blockbuster trade from Tim Conley with the Cat and Julius Randle signing Ayo Dosunmu. It always seems like somehow, some way it does work out in some fashion for Tim Conley. So just a few things to keep in the back of your mind for Wolves fans.
You're getting a good guy over there, Will, man. You guys are. You just really are. That's what I would tell anybody who's a Hornets fans listening to this one. I mean, he came in the league undrafted, was overweight when he came in, could barely jump over the free throw line, and then transformed his whole body, got better every single year, earned every single thing he got it. And like, he's just been amazing, man. He's such a good like dude around the community and everything like that. You're gonna hear the same la di da everywhere you go. If you're trying to find anything about Naz Reid from Minnesota fans, I think like when his tribute video comes back, like me personally, I almost feel like Naz Reid. I don't remember who I was telling. Might have been my girlfriend or mate. I don't remember who I was telling, but recently since he got moved, I was basically saying that like when Naz Reid comes back, his tribute video, his homecoming back in Minnesota, will probably be the second most popular, most heartfelt thing over Carl Anthony Towns. That's how much I think Naz Reid was loved
Yeah.
here. Well, like I really do. I think he'll be over Cat. I think only KG holds the number one spot. And I think like people here have tattoos of him. There's the towels everywhere, the billboards, signs all around people's yards, like artwork. Like he was definitely like a movement here because he embodied somebody that was like the underdog that came in and worked hard and was the sixth man of the year all these years, played in the back, never got that starting job. Finally got the like you said, the business side well, where you finally get it, but then you get moved. But he just like put his hat on and he just went to work every single day. Like Naz Reid's a dog, man. And I've never seen a big with the handle that Naz Reid get, man. You guys are getting a good one, man. You guys are getting a good one out in Charlotte, man. I can't wait to watch him.
Oh, I believe that 100%. I
Mhm.
mean, it's like you said, man. When it comes to being a fan favorite, it's easy to love Anthony Edwards, right? It's
Yeah.
obviously easy to love Anthony Edwards and all his talent, but it's like you said, Naz Reid, he worked so hard for everything he's got. Like you said, undrafted, just putting his head down and going to work. I feel like that's something we all can respect at a very deep level. We're always going to be thrilled at Anthony Edwards' crazy dunks and just how amazing he is as a player, but there's just something special about that kind of guy. Like you said, he connects with the community. He's a hard worker. There's just so much to like about him. So when those fan favorites come and they go, it's tough, but I promise we'll take good care of him over here, man.
Yeah, man. And I think too, like Nas Rio and Matt had mentioned it, playing through the shoulder injury was just something you have to take your cap off to as well. That was really bothering him. And he played multiple months with that injury, including through the playoffs. And I think that's where the Randall move eventually kind of comes about too, is because you saw Julius Randle have like a horrendous playoff run to an extent. And then you have guys like Naz Reid giving it their all with their shoulder barely hanging on. And you got Anthony Edwards over here who is playing at like a 60% rate with his knee. And like all these players, man. And then you have like a healthy Julius Randle. I think to me, I remember talking here, at least in around to people that I talk to. I feel like that's a little low key offensive to the team, man. And it's a bad vibe. It's a bad look on certain things. But Julius brought us a lot of good things too. So I'm not going to always harp on the bad things. He did a lot of great things. He was great the year before in the Lakers series and the Warriors series, absolutely dominant. So Randall had done a plenty of other great things, but I feel like the time was coming to the end. We see everything go down. Now we're here. What do you make of Michael Jordan kind of being the involved in the ownership there with the Charlotte Hornets, and then just the Hornets in general, kind of trading Lamelo Ball and kind of, I wouldn't say giving up on him, but like Will, why are they moving on from Lamelo Ball after that amazing season that he had, man? What's the temperature you're getting?
Yeah, so when it comes to the ownership piece, Jordan left, I want to say, the summer of 23. So he's been out of the room for a little while now.
Okay, cool.
New
I'm behind.
guys, Rick Schnall and Gabe Plotkin, they definitely have a different style. I think one of the key things that I attribute that to, and just in how they seem to be a good bit more personable and things like that. None of this is a knock on Jordan, but it's
Yep.
just like recognizing the differences. I think Rick and Gabe, they have made a point to be very hands-on with the fan base and the community, right? They're at all these events. I think in part because they can be, right? I think Jordan is this massive celebrity. Wherever he goes, he's getting swarmed. Like, you know how that goes. I mean, he's Jordan.
Yeah.
But these guys, not everybody knows who they are. So they can show up to events. They can show up and, give gifts to fans, whatever, shake people's hands courtside. I've even briefly met them a time or two. And they have this strategy of just kind of feeling like they're a bigger part of the community as a whole. And obviously they've orchestrated hiring of Jeff Peterson and all the moves he's been able to make, they've been a part of. So I do like what they've done. I'm overall a fan of their process and how they've handled things.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to LaMelo and moving on from him, it's tough to say, man, because I think like I said, I think there's still moves to be made. I think there's still a vision being executed here. So I can't exactly say I see the end of it yet, but my guess is that they were ultimately banking on what you said earlier, the injury piece, because this past season he played 72 games, but the 3 seasons before that, as you alluded to earlier, didn't play very much. Off the top of my head, I want to say he played maybe about 35 games, about 20 games, and about 45 games in
around there, yeah.
3 seasons before that. So it was come and go in terms of his availability. And when he played, he was great. But it was the constant talking piece from the Hornets fan base of, man, when we get healthy, we're going to be good. And it was just, well, when's that going to happen? It did happen this past season. It did. And he had a great supporting cast. But I'll tell you something else I heard from a few Hornets fans after the play-in loss to the Magic, right? They win that thriller at home against the Miami Heat in the 9-10 game. And they go to Orlando and they get blown out. And Hornets fans are going, man, it's the third time we've been blown out in the play-in game, right? It's the third time we had our backs against the wall in a postseason game. We couldn't get it done. And ultimately a disappointment, right? And so I think that when you combine that with, right,
yeah,
you have your backs against the wall and you couldn't get it done. And then also factoring in, you got this far after LaMelo played a full season. There were several Hornets fans that I heard say, we wasted a year of perfect health from LaMelo. I don't think he can do this again. Right, so I'm not going to say he's going to miss a ton of games next year. I hope he doesn't. I hope he stays on the floor for the entire season. I hope he plays 80 games next year. Right, but the law of averages would say he might have more trouble with that next season. I think the Mayo Clinic, like you said, the great medical staff they have there will probably help, but there's always the chance of that, right? Yeah. I think that they looked at the overall percent chance they had of replicating this past year, and they said, we're not ultimately convinced that we can do this all over again. Even if we do, maybe there's some signs that LaMelo is not our guy when we get to these backs against the wall games. I'm just speculating here, right? But that is my best guess as to the conclusion they came to, because, right, other than that, it does look like a perfect situation. If you just look at the results and you do say, man, well, when they were healthy for the second half of the season, it was this juggernaut. So that's ultimately my thought process. We'll have to see what else Jeff Peterson has up his sleeve.
Do you think it's like leadership stuff with him? Do you think it's the off court the stuff? Because there's been obviously the talk of maturity. There's been the talk of what's he doing on court? What are his post game like? What is he saying on the mic? Like all those unique things, I guess. Like, do you think LaMelo has it in him to really be a mature winning player? Like you said, you saw him in before this last season come in. And you saw those signs, right, for like the first time. Will that continue? And do you think maybe him not having it be his team, he's not the 1A anymore. Now he's the Robin to the Batman. Anthony Edwards is kind of the guy. Like, is that going to take some pressure off of him, and then he can kind of go do his thing? Or like, what's your vibe kind of on LaMelo? Because those questions are coming about for sure from Timberwolves fans, man.
Right. Honestly, I think he doesn't care to be the number one guy. I don't think that not being the best player on the team, I don't think he has a problem with that. I think maybe earlier in his career he might have, but I think he's fine to be the 1A, 1B with Ant. I think, like you said earlier, the fact that maybe Ant is the best player he's played with in his career, maybe LaMelo is the best player Ant's played with in his career, possibly. Yeah. That's a really exciting thing for both of those guys.
Yeah.
But no, I don't think he would have any sort of problem with that. I think it's him figuring out, hey, look, this wasn't ultimately where I belonged. They had some sort of problem with their vision for me. And look, this is where I'm at now. I just got to go and be me. I think it puts a little bit of a chip on his shoulder. And I think he goes and plays his best ball if he can stay healthy. Like you said, I believe in that medical staff. I think it's a great situation for him, 100%.
So I think my kind of 2 cents on the whole situation is I think kind of just from like just listening to stuff from the media today and just having time to like think and process the trade, with LaMelo's injury stuff, like the Hornets were a tanking team, during those 3 years where LaMelo ended up ultimately playing like 110 games, whatever it was we were talking about. Mm-hmm. And with that being said, like we saw it with Ant, like come down to the end of the regular season and you are still competitive and still are jostling for playoff position, and ended up coming back at the end of the regular season, and I almost wonder if some of the injury stuff with LaMelo Ball was maybe he was ready to come back and he just ultimately didn't come back because of the position that the Hornets were in, because there's no reason to go and sacrifice isn't the word, but put the health of your 22-year-old franchise player on the line even more than you already have, and with the whole scenery change for LaMelo Ball, I think that we're going to get LaMelo Ball's best season. You're going to bring him into what has turned into a winning culture for the first time in 20 years in Minnesota. I'm going to allude back to your point, Will, just kind of with roles reversed with Naz and LaMelo. LaMelo gets to come into a situation, sit down, pick Anthony Edwards' brain, pick Jaden McDaniels' brain. What do I do? How does this stuff work coming into these late April, these May playoff runs? And there's the other knock on LaMelo's game is and unfortunately stats back it up, he was one of the worst defenders in the NBA last year, right? But I'm also expecting a defensive jump from LaMelo this year. LaMelo has never played with a defensive anchor like Rudy Gobert in his career. I think that, last year I'm a big Moussa Diabate guy. I think that Moussa is going to be great in the league for years to come. He's an athletic freak. I think that he could ultimately end up being up there with the Jokic's, the Mitchell Robinsons for the best rebounders in the NBA. But I do think that there is still a gap between Moussa and Rudy on the defensive side. So I almost wonder if that is going to free up LaMelo Ball to play a little bit more freely, a little bit more aggressively on the defensive side of the ball, where in the past, you have Cody Zeller behind you. You have you have all these other guys, and you don't have a perennial 4-time defensive player of the year. You don't have Jaden McDaniels sitting behind you. Ant's no slouch defensively when he's locked in. So I think that these guys are going to bring out a different side of LaMelo Ball. It seems like LaMelo, like I said earlier, he's ecstatic. He wants to win. You can tell that he cares about the game. Like that is who LaMelo Ball is. So I think that, like I've said already, I sound like a broken record now, but with bringing him into this winning culture, I think that we're going to see not a completely different LaMelo Ball, because we obviously still want him to be himself. We still want the box office plays. We want the between the legs lobs, the behind the hoop passes. We want all that stuff. But I also do want to see LaMelo try to, engage himself a little bit more defensively and just whatever it may be. So I think that is definitely going to be something to keep our eye out for this year.
I want to go right off of that because this plays into something we talked about with Jeff Peterson today and a couple of nights ago. I think it's a great point. So as I said earlier, I think there were definitely some moments of defensive improvement from LaMelo this past year, maybe even the last couple seasons, but right, it was the consistency. It's can you put it together for more weeks, more months at a time? Like you said, I think those veterans and those guys, that have been in those playoff series can help him with that. I think I should connect this to something Peterson said, though, because it reminds me of really a point Zach Lowe made earlier today. He said, to some degree, in some form or fashion, he said, when it comes down to why the Hornets didn't want LaMelo didn't believe they had their guy to help them come to a championship, right? Take them to a championship. Something Jeff Peterson has said, he said this after the loss to Orlando in the play-in game, was he said, we have to embody physicality. We have to really put physicality in our DNA and our blood. We just showed a lack of that in that play-in game, right? And so, yeah, we're going to draft like Steinbach and these guys that are better defenders or more physical on the interior, but he's like, it starts with the guys on the roster. Yeah. And these guys know it. Like, they've been in the weight room. They've been like trying to take this mentality on more. Maybe that played into something with the LaMelo stuff too, right? Because Zach Lowe is kind of playing the devil's advocate to say, man, they've been in these play-in games, and when it was all about toughness and grit and stuff like that, maybe LaMelo just didn't hold up the way they were hoping to. I look at like the teams that were in the finals this year. I look at the Spurs and the Knicks. I go, man, who's tougher than Jalen Brunson? That guy is tough as nails, right? Mm-hmm. He may not be the greatest defender in the world, but you're not going to find him just giving up and taking plays off. Mm-hmm. And I don't say that to say this is a glaring problem that LaMelo will bring to Minnesota. I say this as an area of improvement, like you said, I think it's something he can improve at because he's shown those moments of being better on that end. I think it's definitely something we can see a big progression in as he gets those veterans around him to push him more in that way.
Absolutely. And I think too, sorry, Evan, real quick. I want to get one more point in. Like with LaMelo, obviously, like the years that he's been healthy, like last year, I think the Hornets were like the number 1 ranked offense in the league. And then the 1 year that I want to say it was his sophomore, maybe his junior year, I think they were the 6th ranked offense in the league. Like the Timberwolves' identity is built on defense. That is just a fact of the matter. Their 2 Western Conference Finals run were built on physicality and built on defense. The thing with this Wolves team is that, the question always going into the playoffs is, do these guys have it? And these guys do have it. They hit a different gear come playoff time. And I think that stuff I think it's contagious, like you see your best player, your all NBA superstar player diving for loose balls on the floor. You see your 6'3" point guard who now unfortunately torn his Achilles, diving out of bounds, jumping over the stanchion for any and everything like that. That rubs off on players, And then obviously, like I was stating earlier with the offensive side for LaMelo, you are adding in a 99th percentile creation point guard, So it's like the ceiling is just truly the limit for this team. And what it comes down to, it's obviously not the same as the Julius Randle thing, but it's, can he buy in? Will he buy in? And now that he is off our team, I can say this, like Julius Randle didn't, like it was a pain to watch. It was not fun to watch. And it almost feels like it can't get worse than what we had it to a certain extent, just with how we closed the season. So I have all the hopes in the world for LaMelo Ball that he's going to put this together, and it's going to be an exciting season to watch.
It's going to be a ton of fun. I think, like, when you speak of physicality, well, like, you're getting physicality in Naz Reid. That's one thing I know he's going to bring to you guys. So that's the direction you want to go. They're getting that. Naz Reid, he's a demon. He's a dog, man. You guys are going to love him. Really excited, man. Really excited for you guys. I appreciate having you on, Will. Come on anytime. You're welcome over here, man. And if you ever need anybody to talk anything about Wolves, whatever, Wolves side things, and you need any input on anything, for the Hornets or the NBA in general, man, we got you anytime, man. So appreciate you having you on. Matt, as always, thank you so much. You can find us on social media on just by searching the Daily Wolves. We're on Spotify, Apple, iHeartRadio, anywhere you get your podcasts. Again, search the Daily Wolves. Until next time, guys, as always, go Wolves.
Go Wolves.